Africa is at the brink of an economic revolution, just like what happened in China in the 80s. Now, the next 20 years is going to be a game changer. Imagine being at the forefront of the fastest growing continent, tapping into opportunities that are going to define the future. In this video, I'm covering the top 10 business ideas that are going to thrive in Africa over the next 20 years. So whether you're an entrepreneur or a entrepreneur, that is someone who wants to be an entrepreneur, or an investor looking for the next big business idea, this video is for you. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. In Africa today, we talk about business, entrepreneurship, finance, and anything that brings you money. My name is Asongwe Luis. You are watching Africa Today, and we are starting right now. We are going to start the countdown, and at the end of the video, I'm going to give you my opinion on the 2 best businesses on the list. Also, let me know in the comment section below which business you prefer. At number 10, we have Robotic Nannies. Yes, I said it, Robotic Nannies. I know some people are going to say, hey, robots in Africa playing the role of nannies. That's exactly what I'm talking about. We are going to have Robotic Nannies for several reasons. I'm going to start with a few. Now, you remember back then, most of you who have stayed in Africa, who have lived in Africa for some time, or who have African friends are going to relate with me with this. Back in the days, it was easier to have a nanny than it is today. Your parents would just like have a call and tell maybe an uncle or an aunt in the village that I want a nanny ASAP, and in the next 2 or 3 days, they are going to send somebody. But now things have actually changed. If you like, you call from January to December, it's difficult for you to have a nanny. Parents in the village no longer want to send their children to go and waste a year or 2 before thinking of going to school the next year. So nobody wants to send their children to a house somewhere, to somebody that they don't even know, to go and be working there or whatever. It is no longer applicable. The next reason why robotic nannies is going to be a very big business in the next 20 years in Africa is that in Africa, the culture is actually changing. Whether we like it or not, that is something that is actually changing. Remember back in the days, housewives, we used to have housewives, but now housewife issue mentality is actually going out. If you have a wife in Africa, either that wife is actually working or that wife has a business. So things are actually changing. And if you look at in the Western world or some parts in Asia, you see that because the wife is working and the husband is working, sometimes they do share house chores. But that is not the tradition in Africa. Africans don't want that. An African man, a typical African man, cannot go into the kitchen and start washing dishes. That is a taboo in the African tradition. So for that reason, in the future, most African men will sort to robotic nannies. Another reason why robotic nannies is going to flood the African market is the pace at which artificial intelligence is growing. Artificial intelligence is at another level. It's at a level that we have never seen or witnessed before. The other day I was watching a video where 2 telephones were actually conversing through AI. So it's going to amaze you the way these artificial robots are going to behave. We're talking about the next 20 years, but Elon Musk mentioned it in the recent video. The first people that are going to bring robotic nannies into Africa are going to make billions of dollars. Back in 2023, the global market for the robotic nanny was about $10 billion and it's expected to reach $24 billion by 2028. Imagine living from $10 billion to $24 billion in just a few years. It actually shows that this market has a very strong capacity to grow. Especially in Africa, where we have this middle class doubling in size, the population doubling in size, the number of millionaires are expected to increase by 42%. So the market for these robots is actually going to prosper in Africa. At number 9, we have outsourcing. So what is the concept of outsourcing? What is the concept of the outsourcing business? Right now, you'll find a company in China that has a headquarters in Britain, for example, but then they're outsourcing it to China because the cost of production in China is lower. Outsourcing is going to be a very powerful business opportunity in Africa for several reasons. Other outsourcing destinations, other popular outsourcing destinations like China, Philippines, Mexico, India are becoming expensive. So just like the laws of capital, it's going to move to a place where it is more affordable. As we're talking right now, even the Chinese, who were the masters of outsourcing businesses, are now outsourcing to Africa. And what you can do is to open up an outsourcing company, you have to put in your mind, first of all, that the aim of your business is to reduce the workload of a company somewhere in the world where it is more expensive for them to carry out such tasks. Then you train and sharpen the skills of your prospect employees so that they carry out these tasks skillfully. You should focus on giving quality services. Example of services that you can actually do as an outsourcing company. That is, if you want to open up an outsourcing business, you must not have a mastery, but you can employ people who have a mastery on these services. Example of services that you can offer as an outsourcing company while based in Africa. You have accounting. You can offer accounting services to firms out of Africa. You can offer IT services. You can create softwares. You can create mobile phone apps. Imagine that a company in Europe, for example, wants to build a mobile app, and you have a team in Africa that can build that mobile app in a very skillful way, and they're going to do it at a better price than a company doing the same task in Europe. So that is the essence of outsourcing. Other services that you can offer as an outsourcing company are sourcing suppliers, negotiating contracts. Yes, being in Africa, you can actually negotiate contracts of a company that is found in Europe, for example, with other business partners around the world. That is your duty. That is, you have so many services that you offer for different departments within your company. That's how it works. Now, a good example is I have a friend who does DevOps. He has not yet finished his training, but he told me that by the time he finishes his training, he is going to contact an outsourcing company which is based in Cote d'Ivoire that is going to use his services of DevOps to develop and maintain software of a company that is found in Europe. So you find this, there are some people who do this already. Now, that is in Cote d'Ivoire. That is the concept. It's not that people are not doing it right now. They are doing it as a very lucrative business. Some countries are already doing very well in Africa in this particular sector. We're talking about South Africa. About 10% of South Africa's GDP comes from outsourcing, and it recruits up to 270,000 people in the country. And it is expected that by 2030, it's going to recruit more than 700,050 people. The market value for outsourcing industry was $620 billion, and it is expected to reach $948 billion by 2027. If a particular business can bring up to 10% of a country's GDP, then you can imagine how large that market is. And many other African countries have not yet seen these opportunities. Many people have not yet seen these opportunities and are not making good use of these opportunities. That is to tell you that the potential is very high. But as we always say, money doesn't like noise. People don't always talk about things that make them rich, or things that make them wealthy, or things that brings them income. In French, you say, l'argent ne parle pas. At number 8, we have catering homes. Now, catering homes is going to come to Africa. As of the moment, catering homes are not a thing in Africa, because in Africa's culture, it sounds like a taboo that you should take your father or your mother or your grandfather to a home where people take care of them. And I mean, it's going to be a taboo. If you just even start, you try to do it, it's actually like, it's not going to work. But in the next 20 years, this is a business that is going to boom. It's going to explode. It's already a business idea that does very well all over the world. It has a very high market value. So this business, it's going to explode in Africa for many reasons. I'm going to give the first reason is that African housewives, it is rare now to actually have African housewife. I gave this point earlier on, because that is a fact that is going to happen, and it's inevitable. African housewives are almost inexistent. If your wife is not actually working a 9-to-5 job, she is actually having a business, or she's running a business. So that makes her absent at home. When we were small, I remember we used to have aunties and uncles that stay at home. Anybody watching from Africa can relate with me. At first, that was the case, but now it's no more the case, because these aunties and uncles, the economy has become so tight in such a way that everybody is looking for a job. Everybody is active in one way or the other. And when everybody is active, it means that no working force, nobody of active working force is actually present in your home. And if your father is staying in that same home, it means that you are not giving the care that your grandfather or your father needs. And if you're not giving the care that your father or your grandfather needs at that critical age, at that moment, it means that the lifespan of your father or your grandfather is going to reduce. That is the simple logic. I know many people are going to come after me in the comment section that, hey, these are African traditions, it's a taboo. It's the same thing I'm talking right now, and it's going to change whether we like it or not. When these catering businesses start popping up around the countries, it's going to take over our neighborhoods, because people are going to be more conscious of the care that their parents need. What is the advantage that the catering homes actually bring? The first thing is personalized care. With a professional catering home, somebody is there to provide bathing daily for your father or grandfather or whoever, if they are not physically able to do that. They provide bathing, dressing, medication, and meal preparation. And when we talk about meal preparation, we're talking about preparation of meals that are prescribed, because just preparing meals in most African homes, when they prepare food, everybody eats the food, no matter the age. You just eat, everybody eats. And we consume a lot of palm oil, we consume a lot of Maggi, we consume a lot of, so all these things are things that reduce the lifespan of your parents without you knowing. Most in the situation where the elderly are not living with the children, they live alone. And when they live alone, they can have so many health problems. If the elderly person is having a health crisis, nobody's going to know. That's why you always hear in Africa that they found this man dead in his house. That's simply because he is not living with the children. The father wants his independence. That's an example. Most modern catering homes, what they do right now is that when you bring your elderly person to them, they give you access to cameras of that person's room. You have an app where you can actually check when he is sleeping, check if he's in the bathroom, check if he's bathing, check if he's okay. But that is just for checking sake. They have people right there that are taking care 24/7 on every resident. But that is not the case. If you are living in Africa and your father is living in the village and you think that he's fine, he might not be fine right now. I bet you don't have access to him. You might even want to call him on cell phone, and he doesn't even want cell phone. Maybe he is blind. Maybe he cannot hear very well. Now, these are very practical things that with awareness, many people are going to see into it in the next 20 years. These are the businesses in Africa that are going to populate Africa's economy. Also, another reason why catering homes are going to take over is that catering homes have qualified medical staff that monitor the health of their residents. So imagine you living in your home with your parents and with a doctor that take care of your parents. That is what these catering homes do. They monitor the health of your parents and all that. These catering homes also offer emotional support. Now, imagine a situation where you are living in Africa and everybody goes for work. You go for a journey. You are about 50 years old. You no longer stay with your children. You have your dad who is also about 70 years old. He's living with you. Now you go out for work. Your father remains at home, the only person. He feels lonely. There is no emotional support. In catering homes, they provide situations for emotional support. They also have certain games that help to stimulate the brain. After the working age at a particular stage, people no longer use their brain at full capacity. So in catering homes, they provide certain games that will permit the brain of the elderly to actually function and reignite. So these are not all the reasons. These are just some of the reasons why catering homes are going to inflate the African market. So let me know down below in the comment section what you think about this particular business. I'm going to read all the comments and I'll be responding to all the comments in this video. At number 7, we have virtual reality. Now, this is a very big business idea. It's going to make millionaires and billionaires in Africa in the next 20 years. Africa is having lots of touristic sites. Imagine you having a business, say in Abuja, for example, where tourists need to come to your business place and actually preview touristic sites before going to those touristic sites. Now, this is going to help the tourists because it's going to make them choose better touristic sites to visit. And it's also going to help you because you'll be charging a fee for each visit. It's also even very lucrative for realtors, those who deal in real estate. Imagine someone coming to your agency, coming to your office to actually visualize the different properties that you have to sell before actually buying them. Now, this is going to give you an advantage over many other realtors in the area. Imagine you want to buy a house and you go to a virtual reality institution where you have access to different properties. You see them live and actually examine all the properties of the house as you want them to be. You using these softwares to actually close deals is going to be a very big advantage. Virtual reality business is also going to be used by architects. Imagine if you want to build a house and you don't know how the house is going to look like. It's going to be built up using a virtual reality software, and you get into the house, you get into your future house and actually walk in that future house and see the kind of things that you prefer to have in the house and those that you don't want. So these are the technologies that are going to be in Africa in the next 20 years. We're not saying that there are not going to be other businesses. Of course, there are going to be other businesses. This video is actually giving you those businesses that are going to make you stay on top. So at number 6, we have remote healthcare services. Just like outsourcing, remote healthcare services is going to explode in Africa. Now, the first reason is that healthcare services in Africa is extremely cheap. Now, just for comparison, in the US, for example, if you make 4 days in the hospital, your average fee is going to be about $13,000. And if a surgery is involved, you are going to spend about $100,000. In Africa, the average hospital bill is somewhere around $50. That is extremely low compared to that of the US. So if you want to really make money, you can actually set up a remote healthcare business in Africa, and you work from Africa, you can attend to patients all over the world.
No.
In a real remote assessment, a doctor would be seeing and hearing this through this headset. And with training, the wearer can also access virtual records and monitor vital signs in real time.
In fact, the technology is already available, but it's going to become better and better as time goes on. If you forget about the outside world and actually concentrate only in Africa, you are still going to make a lot of money from this business. Why? Because Africa's population is going to reach about 2.5 billion in the next 20 years. Now, that is a lot of potential customers. The global market size of remote healthcare service was about $6.7 billion in 2022 and is expected to reach $33.5 billion by 2032. Now, this is a very huge increase. So it's going to increase more than 4 times 4. So let's move to the next business. At number 5, we have AI consulting. AI consulting is going to be very, very huge over the next 20 years. So with this business, what you need to actually do is, first of all, you need to master AI. Not mastering it that you need to write codes and all that. You don't need to write codes. You just need to know how the different AI applications work. So you open up an agency where you consult people on what kind of AI they need for their businesses. You need to understand that in the next 20 years, what is going to govern our economy is going to be AI. AI is at another level. I watched a video about 2 days ago where 2 telephones were actually discussing. One of the phones actually asked the other phone to describe what the other phone's camera is seeing. And actually the other phone described totally what the other camera is saying. You can also consult governments. Now I want to give you a very practical example. Take for example in the Ministry of Health, they want to collect data, for example, and the only thing that is available right now, let's say, is Excel. The problem with Excel is that not everybody masters Excel. Excel is somehow complicated and some people don't even want to learn Excel. But what you and I know about AI is that AI is very simple to use. Some are just prompts that you need to just talk in. It's already a prompt. You can talk to an AI and it's already a prompt. You can tell it what to do with that information. You can type a number into an AI. For example, 20. You say this number represents the number of people having cancer. That is already information that you have put. You don't need to use Excel. So if you are able to consult AI to different organizations, different ministries or different businesses, you are going to make a difference. You are going to make lots of money. As African governments are actually embarking on digital transformation, AI is going to be important to actually document many things. I remember I went to one of the regional delegations of agriculture in Cameroon. I saw large documents that have been piled up somewhere, and I was just imagining, hey, these are people's documents that have piled up here. These people have actually deposited this data that they've deposited, and maybe they have not even entered this data in any computer because it is already mind-boggling. To enter all the data from these documents is going to be very, very difficult. As an AI consultant, you can actually propose to the government or to the particular ministry what AI services they can use to convert this analog data, which is in papers and books, to digital data, or having an agency that actually take part in transforming this data using the AI. You are going to make lots of money. So when you have an AI consulting firm, you can actually specialize and know the problems that businesses in your area, organizations in your area, or the government in your area have. So when you specialize in this, you are already a consultant and you adding value to your customers is already a business. In 2023, the global market size of AI consulting was at $6.9 billion and is expected to reach $54.7 billion by 2032. We are not only going to be doing analog to digital transformation. There are hundreds of AIs out there, and you mastering this AI and actually opening an agency with a team of people who master these different AIs, you are going to make lots of money. As I said, you need no coding, you need no Python coding or whatever. You don't need that. You just need to have an idea that this AI goes for this and this goes for that, and you are good to go. That's already a business that you can even start even from today. You must not wait up to 10, 20, 15 years to start this business. So with that said, let's go to the next business. At number 4, we have transportation and logistics. They always say an action leads to reaction. Let's look at the action here. The action here, the creation of the African Free Trade Zone. That is the breaking of the borders across different African countries, is going to cause something that we have never seen before in Africa. As of now, African trade is at 15%. The aim is to make Africa to be a single market. It's going to drive huge volumes of goods and services across the borders. So if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a entrepreneur thinking about business in Africa, this is one of the businesses that you should look at. If you open a trucking company, you are going to make lots of money in Africa. If you open transit companies, you are going to make lots of money. If you open anything linked to logistics and transportation across borders, you are going to make lots of money. It's an industry that is just sitting down waiting to be exploited. Another reason that is going to make this business flourish is actually creation of the Trans-African Highway. Only about 5% of Africans actually know as of now that there is a plan. When I say plan, it's like it has not been going on. There is work going on, and more than 90% of African countries have been linked already by road. A decade ago, African countries were not linked up. Every country was just like fighting for its own. But now there is plan for interconnectivity, and also there is a railway project that is actually going on to link all countries by railway. Another thing that is going to make this sector develop very well is also GPS tracking. There have been great advancements in GPS tracking. You can actually sit anywhere and track all your trucks. This is a very big boost in this business. People who were afraid like somebody can just take my truck and go away, it's no longer possible. So GPS tracking is already at another level. You can sit in Cameroon and actually track a truck that is in South Africa. You can turn off that truck. You can actually report the location of that truck to the police being here in Cameroon. If the engine is on, you are going to see on your phone that the engine is turned on. If the engine is off, you are going to also monitor it. So advances in technological development is also going to push this industry over the next 20 years to flourish in Africa. At number 3, we have the digital payment system. Africa is having a very big issue with that right now. If you have an account of PayPal in Africa, you are only able to send money. You cannot easily receive money. And that is a very big problem. You can only pay, but you can't receive. That is very unfair. If you created a PayPal account out of Africa, in Germany, for example, and you migrate to Africa, you can send and receive. If you created in US or, I don't know, many other countries, you can send and receive. But if you created in Africa, you can only buy something, but you cannot receive. It means that your service that you are offering, you cannot be paid for using your PayPal account. That is very unfair. And the global digital payment market is about $95.5 trillion. That is as of 2023. Just look at the amount of money that Africans are not really fully involved. So this is still a problem. And anyone who actually brings up a solution to this problem is actually going to be a billionaire in US dollars. And this problem is not going to last forever. People are going to try to solve this problem, and those that are going to try to solve this problem are going to make lots of money. So this business still remains a very lucrative business over the next 20 years. And let's not forget that the digital payment market is going to increase to about $457 trillion by 2032. If you're having problems using PayPal in Africa, please let me know down in the comments below. So at number 2, we have clean and sustainable energy. This is, of course, no doubt going to be a very booming business in Africa. And for several reasons, I'm going to give you a few reasons why this is going to be one of the best businesses in Africa in the coming years. The efficiency of solar panels in Africa is about 6 times the same solar panels used in a country like Germany, for example. So if you place a solar panel in Germany and place that same solar panel in Abuja, for example, the efficiency is going to be 6 times higher than that in Europe. So another thing that is going to drive this sector is the increasing amount of people that actually like to live off grid. Some people don't want to connect. For example, I am not connected to the national water service, whatever. I extract my water directly from the soil. I treat the water. I have a water treatment plant, and I consume the water that I am extracting. And for many reasons, more and more people like to stay off grid. They don't want to have anything to do to rely on the national grid or whatever. So with that increasing demand demand of renewable energy, this business is going to only grow higher. Another reason why clean energy demand is going to have a surge in Africa is the population. That is very obvious. The population in Africa is going to double. By 2050, we are going to have 2.5 billion people needing energy every day. And also the fact that industries are going to move to Africa. I told you earlier that outsourcing companies are going to surge over the next 20 years. And this outsourcing is not just only for certain services, it's also for manufacturing. And so there will be many manufacturing companies in Africa, and more manufacturing companies also mean that more energy will be demanded. For me, what I actually see is a huge pool of content creators that are actually coming up. If you're in Africa, you take note very well that most of your contacts post regularly on TikTok. Even though they're not professional content creators, they just post casually. This actually means that in the years to come, they are going to become content creators. So AI-driven content creation is going to be one of the highest businesses. And you know, Africa actually has that youthful population that is tech savvy. I promised earlier on that I'm going to give my two preferred sectors among the list, and I'm going to choose virtual reality and AI-driven content creation. Those are actually the two best that I propose. You should actually let us know down below in the comment section which of the sectors you actually prefer, or which business ideas are actually the best for you. I want to take this opportunity to thank all our members and also to remind you to like and subscribe to the video. I'll see you in my next video. Ciao.
Turn and walk away. I know how this goes. You wanna